Welcome back to the National Hurricane Center. This is Ken Graham. We're in our operations area. We're looking at three different areas you can see on satellite here. We're looking at Tropical Storm Fred in this location, getting closer and closer to landfall. We'll look closer here in a little bit. Also, we're looking at depression down in the region that was Grace. I mean, we still have Grace over here producing copious amount of rainfall over Dominican Republic and eventually Haiti as well. So we'll be examining that as well. And well, we have another one. We have another depression close to Bermuda, and we're going to look at those forecasts. I think really important to go ahead and look at the actual radar itself. Look at this moisture that we have associated with Fred. You can see the center, kind of that rotation right down here. And just for looking at the map here, Port St. Joe, Panama City, that location. So getting closer and closer to landfall. We'll see that happen today. But look at the amount of moisture, just a significant amount of tropical moisture. So the I-10 corridor, any one of these areas, stay tuned for some of those warnings. You can get roads flooded, you can get heavy rainfall, just a dangerous situation associated with this tropical rainfall. Not just around the center over here, but look how far over some of this rainfall is producing just tropical rains. Look way over here into portions of Jacksonville, even north up into Georgia. You're seeing some of this heavy rainfall. Let's look at those latest forecasts. We got three of them to look at. One of them is associated with Fred. Winds currently 50 miles an hour. So you're going to start seeing areas in this tropical storm warning along the Florida coastline here in the Panhandle. Could see some tropical storm force winds. So that's pretty significant. You put 50-mile-an-hour winds and that heavy rainfall, you could see some trees down. You could see some power outages. So really watch out for some of these impacts. Those winds stretching out from the center, so it's not just that center point. Most of the winds are off to that right-hand side. So as we see, Tallahassee, Panama City, Apalachicola, any one of these areas could see some of those big winds. So be careful traveling, flooded roads, trees down, and that's not just on the coastline. As we travel northward into portions of extreme southeast Alabama, even up into Georgia with time, that moisture and those winds will travel with it. Let's look at some other impacts. So one of them is the storm surge associated with Fred, and those low-lying areas, those typical areas. Listen to those local officials, because from Indian Pass over the Steinhatchee River, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. Not every location, but those traditional places where that water piles up. Remember that we have track over here. You have winds like this, that water can pile up really quickly right ahead of the storm, and right as the storm makes landfall. Even afterwards, you can see some of those high water levels. So listen to those local officials associated with that impact. That's a significant impact that we're seeing in some of these areas. Here's another one that we talk about, the tornado threat as well. It's, you start looking at this system move forward. Areas like Tallahassee, Dothan could see a slight risk of those tornadoes. That right front quadrant, you see most of those tornadoes. So many different threats associated with Fred. And we start looking at Grace as well. This is tropical depression Grace, the latest information that we have. There's so much rainfall associated with Grace, Dominican Republic, Haiti, some of these areas, 5, 10, maybe some isolated areas, even 15 inches of rainfall, isolated higher amounts. Just dangerous associated with the terrain, mudslides. So if you're watching from some of these areas, really listen to those local officials as well. So wind, rain, and that will continue. Depression will continue impacting portions of Jamaica, also Cuba with time, becoming a tropical storm again as we get away from some of the land, get back over those warm waters. And with time, some uncertainty, of course, with that extended forecast, but with time, we think getting back out into the Gulf Bay of Campeche. So we'll have to watch this with time as we go through the entire week. Also looking at, we're going to do this, Dennis. I've got lots of different things to look at. I think it's worth at least pointing this one out. This is Tropical Depression 8, currently winds 35 miles an hour. Right now, not a threat to us here in the U.S., but Bermuda. If you're watching for Bermuda or headed out to Bermuda, remember, this is going to be hanging around real slow. Look how close these points are together. The closer they are, the slower the movement. So just slow, meandering movement. We'll watch it as it becomes a tropical storm and impacting portions of Bermuda. So definitely worth talking about all three of these systems that we're watching. Here's the rain. This is from Fred. We really need to cover this because just a significant amount of rain, 6 to 10 inches of rain in some of the areas in the Florida panhandle here. But not just that. Look at the rain that continues to move north into southeast Alabama, up through North Georgia, and into Tennessee. And I really want to key on this in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee, Cherokee, getting up to Knoxville. Some of these areas get significant rain. You combine 6 to 10 inches of rain in some of these areas with terrain, you can get some flash flooding, some dangerous situation for some of these areas. So definitely wanted to point that out as we go forward. And the other, really looking at the Weather Prediction Center does a great job looking at where it's going to be the heaviest rain soil conditions, and really highlighting a moderate risk of flash flooding for portions of the Florida Panhandle and southeast Alabama, also up in the mountains of North Carolina, getting to South Carolina as well. So be real careful in these regions, especially traveling. It could be an incredibly dangerous situation. And the final graphic is, we talked about the rainfall, Dominican Republic. Look at these values, 8 to 10, maybe even 15 inches of rain. It's just a dangerous situation. So if you're watching in these areas, please listen to those local officials. Definitely heed those warnings. Just a large amount of rain. Dominican Republic also moving into southern portions of Haiti. See some of those big rainfall amounts, 4 to 6. Definitely could be some higher amounts, and also portions of Jamaica seeing some of those high rains. So that's what we're looking at. 3 different systems, big impacts. Watch out for the rain. Remember, the leading cause of fatalities in these tropical systems is the water. That tropical moisture is not just coastal, but it goes well inland as well. So we'll keep you updated on these systems from right here at the National Hurricane Center. This has been Ken Graham.